first question is, it comes back to education. Okay. We have a problem in education in Egypt, and we have to face it. Our youngsters are coming out, let's say, not accepting, okay, that there are different opinions, okay. If I have a different opinion than you, it's not a fight, okay. I have the right to have different opinions, and accepting to try things and fail, okay. This I think it's a culture thing in Egypt where parents push their children to the limit, don't give them the space to live their life according to their age, make mistakes and learn from them as much as they should, okay. And this is what we tackled in our federation. And we made every athlete, he's the head coach of himself, okay. He gets to choose his own trainers, his system. We monitor him. We give him our guidance, okay. But we let him do the mistakes, okay, and learn from them and then get back. This is the only way he's going to get better. We have also something that we do that I think should be done in all federations. Is we have an athletes commission, and we let them participate in our board meetings. Okay, they can't vote according to the law, but they get to learn from an early stage how the decisions are being made. Sometimes athletes cannot understand why the people in charge did not take this decision, or why we're not going to this camp or this competition or blah blah blah. Okay, but they have to understand that the decisions are not only technical based. Sometimes there are money issues, sometimes there are political issues, so they have to understand that and communicate it between each other. But then they feel also the effort that being put in place from the officials in helping them get over all of that. The second question was what? You asked me something.
We're talking about the individual sports to start off with. Okay, individuals versus group sports, and the second thing is how do we monetize the sector? How can these people make money off? How can we make money?
I'll give you a personal experience in this. My son graduated from AUC 4 or 5 years ago. He traveled. He has an American passport. He worked in the University of Washington, okay, for a while, and then he came back this year. And he came back because he likes Egypt. He likes the life in Egypt. He misses his friends. But he started his own company in the field of sport. He made a company, a small company, entrepreneurship. It's called Passport. It's helping athletes in the age of, say, 13 till 15, create their own CVs and get engaged with the universities abroad to get sports scholarships. What happens here is people, after finishing Thanawi Amma or GCSEs or whatever, okay, they think, I want to get a scholarship. It doesn't work that way. Okay, coaches have to see you for 2-3 years, monitor you, and then you have a chance. Okay, so we are a step back. But there are great opportunities in sport. It's not about the stereotype of me going to a physical education university, coming out, I'll be a coach, I'll be a trainer in this or that. This, of course, in Egypt is a disaster. It's not, you don't make money, it's very poor salaries. But when you get out of the box and think of how can we help out, how can we do something out of the box and really be strong in it. In Egypt now we have, in the sport of water pentathlon, where we had always foreign trainers, now we have our own Egyptians. Our coaches now are head coaches for Guatemala, for Ireland, for South Africa, for so many countries, for 4 or 5 countries around the world. Now they have Egyptian coaches. So the way is paved. Okay, you need to put the effort. You need to be creative. You need to be creative. Get out of the box. Not replicate a certain module. Okay, but go beyond that. And the Egyptians are extremely smart. I think the Egyptian youth are one of the smartest youth in the world. And they just need the opportunity. They need. If you look at the Olympic medalists, okay, in the Olympic Games, the first 10 countries are the top 10 in economy. It's easy. It's all about money. Okay, if you put the money in, okay, you will get the returns. We need to change a lot in education, okay, and especially if you're talking about sport, the physical education part, we are so much back. We need to be more advanced. If we give our youth the opportunity to learn what's up to the level now, they will excel. I have no doubt.
Thank you very much, Shri Big. Let me now go to Dr. Jose, Professor Jose. Thank you for being with us. And I don't know where to start with you because, you know, I can ask you anything and you'll know about it. So I'm going to try and divide this question. And one of the things I really wanted to address, despite the fact that you are from Mexico, but your knowledge and experience on Asia is humongous. And this is one of the things that we needed to address today, but don't have a representative from China with us. And I couldn't ask any of the gentlemen and Her Excellency this morning, and I don't want to brag him to get into this one. But I'll tell you something. Now, we've seen, as a think tank, we've seen this change, a major change. And I, again, call it a risk appetite. 2011, we had a disastrous, or a revolution, then we had, a disastrous year, and then we had another revolution, till we sort of adjusted our direction. And a lot has changed since, because at that time, a lot of the European member states, a lot of the Americans, your regular supporters, the ones that gave technical aid, that invested, and so on and so forth. I'm not saying that they stopped, but there was a stagnation in it. And opens the door to our high-risk appetite Chinese friends that are coming in. We can't really tell the difference between the loans and the investments, really, because it's just a whole big... So we can't tell, but we know there's a lot of money coming in, and a lot of money promised out of the One Belt, One Road initiative, with all the other ambitions that Egypt has to be part of the BRICS, and so there's billions, tens of billions of dollars that are coming here that we need to compete for, but we're doing, like Sharif was saying, we're sort of the USA of Africa. So, even on that, we're going to be doing okay. With that money, like Sharif said again, you have money, like His Excellency Ambassador Prim this morning said, that we spend less than 0.2 something of our GDP on education, we spend less than 0.0 something on, sports and so on and so forth. There is going to be a Chinese influence on Egyptian youth. There is no doubt about it. Today, a lot of employment in these industrial zones, these new Chinese industrial zones, these new projects, they're invested in Egypt in a sense. So there's going to be a change. There's going to be a change of, something I haven't seen. I don't know how to even start. Is there a brain drain from there? Is there going to be, because I was on CNBC Arabia a week or so ago, and they were talking about the impact of Chinese investments on the Egyptian labor market. Are they going to import their labor with them? What's going to happen? Is this going to create jobs for Egyptians or not? Is this good for youth? So I want to understand the impact of Chinese investments and influence on youth in this region. Since you've been in Egypt, how do you see it? How do you foresee this? There is going to be a change. How do you foresee it?
Yeah. Thank you for the invitation, Ashraf. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation and also for the support of Ambassador Mr. Jose Octavio Trip from Mexico. So I think your question about these comparisons between East Asia and Latin America are very interesting. Let me begin with the first data. Mexico is the 14th largest economy in the world, whereas South Korea is the 13th or 14th largest economy in the world. So we are about the same size, okay? Both of Korea and Mexico, I'm not talking still about China, but about South Korea, are top exporters. Korea is, I think, the 6th, and Mexico is the 7th largest exporter in the world. But beyond that, there are meaningful differences. Korea is, I think, less than 10% of the Mexican territory. So it's a small country. And Korean population is half less than half Mexican population. Mexico is 120 million. South Korea is about 55 million. Nevertheless, there are meaningful differences in the educational systems, not only with Korea, but with East Asia in general. The first difference, I would say, is that education is taken seriously in East Asian countries. And when I say seriously, I really mean it. Yeah. So a young boy in Korea goes to school from 7 a.m. to maybe 10 p.m., including special courses. And most of the curriculum, both in primary, secondary, and also in university schools, is focused on math and scientific thinking, English. Whereas in Mexico, kids go to primary school from 8 a.m., I think, to 2 p.m. And the curriculum of all the education is highly focused on management and social science. I think it seems to me that it's the same situation here in Egypt, as far as I know. So that means an important difference, because these highly educated people in East Asia are the engineers of tomorrow, are the ones that are going to make technological innovation that is going to become a competitive advantage in the global market. So another meaningful differences between Mexico, Latin America, and probably Africa and East Asian countries is the investment in R&D. So while Mexico's investment in R&D is 0.4% of GDP, Korea's investment is 5%. So probably you will have Korean or now Chinese or before Japanese technology at home, in your wash dryer, or in your TV or whatever. So I think there's a meaningful difference. We've been talking about the need of increasing education in our countries, in developing countries, but the quality and the type of education is very important as well. Right now, China, to address your question, is graduating more engineers than the United States. So that's this type of scientific and technical education is not alien to economic development. I would say, on the contrary, it's essential for achieving competitiveness.
But again, I'm talking about like the TCM of the Ethiopian embassy was talking this morning. You know, it's the statistics of how many schools we built and how many people we graduated. There was a time, I mean, we are at the time now where we no longer, push our children to become engineers and doctors in Egypt. That was an essential. You've got to be a government employee, a doctor, a police officer, or an engineer. This is the measure of success in Egyptian society. Maybe a decade or 2 decades ago. Maybe now it's changed a little bit. Everybody wants to become a football player or a Bill Gates type of thing.
Same in Mexico, by the way.
And the demographics are because Ambassador Octavio, we've had these conversations about youth development and the similarities and between Egyptian youth and some of the challenges that the Mexicans are facing. And I wanted to get to Mexico, but my point on China again is that there's a global influence, there's a global change of the superpowers in a sense. Maybe the European Union is still doing a lot of things, but they're kind of mixed up with their own thing. God bless the Americans. I don't know what they're going to do, honestly, but they've got their own issues. Their economy is doing fine, but they've got their own issues. So they're not really that focused in a sense. But the Chinese are very focused on Egypt and on Africa. And my point is, they will influence some of the changes in the attitudes of youth. But what kind of change is that going to be? So what are we going to expect? The Egyptians going to work in China? there's no entrepreneurship per se. They're investing in large businesses, large factories. So they're creating the employment that we need, where it's not too artificial intelligence, and at the same time, it's labor intensive, which a lot of other people are trying to sort of avoid that and not, go with the labor intensive part. So what is the influence of China on Egypt, on youth, and in Africa as well? I mean, just a very sort of a picture in your opinion.
Well, one of the main criticisms to Chinese foreign direct investment is that Chinese companies don't hire local workforce. That's a criticism in Latin America, and that's a criticism also in Africa, as far as I know. So they manage king-hand projects, which bring Chinese engineers and even Chinese labor force to work in the infrastructure projects. So, even so, I think there could be some benefits of Chinese investment in the developing areas that have more to do with what happens once the project is completed. So, for any country, it's good to have a highway, no matter who built it. For a country, it's very important to have dams, even if they were built by Chinese companies. And so I think the benefits of Chinese investments worldwide are not immediately seen, but they can be long-term benefits.
I totally get it, and I see it. And one of the things is this whole accusation, if you want to put it, or criticism of an importation of Chinese labor to Egypt. Yes, I mean by default. I mean, when Germany opens up Siemens in Egypt, they have German managers there. When an international company opens up in Egypt, you'll find that they will send at least some of their top management first, if it's not the full labor. So we see that in Huawei here, and we see that in a lot of Chinese factories and companies. Let me go specifically to one of the issues that Mexicans are facing today, or Mexican youth. Again, a change in demographics and change of ideologies of, this whole NAFTA reconception in a sense. How's that? How's the attitude, if you want me to put it that way, the policy attitude of the United States towards NAFTA? How is that going to impact demographics of Mexican youth and their competitiveness?
Wow, that's a very, very interesting question. The present and the future of Mexico is inextricably linked to NAFTA. Whatever form it takes, whatever shape, NAFTA it's been very, very important. 85% of Mexican exports each year go to the United States. It's an extreme concentration of trade. I don't know any other country in the world that has such a close relationship. NAFTA has brought some benefits to the Mexican economy. Right now, Mexico has a surplus of more than 100 billion US dollars with the United States. And that's precisely has been one concern of the Donald Trump administration. So he's been very vocal in renegotiating NAFTA so that Mexico reduces its trade surplus with the United States. After NAFTA's signature after NAFTA took into force in 1994, there have been lots of foreign investment in Mexico. Not only US investment, but also Japanese or Korean investment, because we shouldn't forget that Mexico is very close to the United States. So many companies invest in Mexico to take advantage of the lower wages than in the United States, and also to the proximity of Mexico to the United States.
And the custom-free entry under NAFTA
yes,
as well.
Yeah.
And you have economic zones, I believe. So as Egyptians, we can go and build in the economic zones in Mexico and take advantage of NAFTA.
That's right. And so NAFTA created many employments in the manufacturing sector for Mexican young people. Nevertheless, most of these employments are not exactly well paid. So it's more for low-skilled laborers in the assembling plants. It's good to have them, but I think the Mexican government has neglected to take advantage of these changes and this huge investment, foreign investment, by supplying a more modernized and well-trained workforce with technical skills. So there is a need to change the public policy in education so that Mexico can reap more benefits from NAFTA and from these foreign investments that have been, I wouldn't say flowing to Mexico, but that they are being going consistently over years.
But isn't, you think about it, it's a bit of a competitive advantage that you have, cheap labor or unskilled labor, because, it's sort of what's happening in China now. They're moving their labor-intensive industries to Vietnam and Sri Lanka, and, let's move out. We're no longer playing this, where everything's made in China. Now they're doing, they're doing not by China, but they're actually sell to China. I mean, they've reached that point. So would you see that residual effect if you do upgrade the skill set and capabilities of Mexico becoming more competitive, or losing these investments? I mean, that's really where it's a catch-22. Do you lose the investments that are coming in because of that competitive advantage to other, Latin American countries? Because we can go down. There's a lot of, potential there as well. It's very Africa to me in a sense. So you see that as maintain the same way that we want to do here, because we're not pushing so much for the AI. I really want labor-intensive industries. I want to get people. We build the road, yes, thank you very much. But I need that 30,000 people that were building the road to actually work in the factory then. I don't want them, creating applications. And we don't have that capability. So how do you see it? Do you keep the competitive advantage now?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. China's labor force is getting more and more expensive now. So 10 years ago, some of the investments that went to Mexico flew to China, taking advantage of this lower price of the workforce. But right now, some of them are going back to Mexico, so bringing more employment. On the other hand, I think that Mexico could benefit more. Mexico is a very strange creature. It's like, if you see Mexico from one point, it looks like an industrialized country, and it is indeed. So 85% of Mexican exports come from industrial activities. Most of these industrial activities are linked to NAFTA, are assembling activities conducted by foreign firms and employing Mexican labor force in order to assemble products to export to the United States. So it's a triangular trade pattern. So it's an industrialized country, but it's not a country with endogenous technology. It's very different from the rest of Latin America, because if you see Argentina, Chile, or Brazil, even Brazil, which is a big country, Brazil industrial exports are only, I think, 25% of its exports, and Venezuela is 4%, or Argentina is 15%. So if we have this ambiguity in Mexico, but I think that even if lower wages are a source of competitiveness, Mexican economy could improve the condition of local workers. And even moreover, in the renegotiation of NAFTA, one of the requisites that the United States is asking Mexico is to improve wages of Mexican workers, so that Mexico is less competitive and some investment go back to the United States.
It's going to be worth watching, definitely. Thank you very much. What I'll do is, we'll just go down. Final message, since we're talking about youth competitiveness. What do you advise the global youth? What do you advise young people? If you can start, Doctor, and then you can close. Yes.
A final message is that Mexico and Egypt have an opportunity to take advantage of young people. The median age in Egypt is 24 years. Mexico is 28 years, aging but still young. The world average is 30 years old. And countries such as Japan are in 47 or Italy 46 years old. So one of our strengths and forces is precisely to have all these young people that can change the story for good and or for bad. But I think I wish it is for good.
Thank you so much for your comments. Really educational. Brahim Bey, please.
Well, I will really compliment by saying that Egypt has a great potential. It has a very strategic geographic location. It has a potential. It has a manpower. But at the same time, when we look to Egypt in doing business, the ranking is disappointing. It's 120. Emirates is 11, and so on and so forth. So there are needs for real reforms in order really to have a striving private sector facilitating business in the country. And here you are. I mean, those can go. This potential cannot materialize if we don't have a very conducive business environment.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim. Really appreciate it. Sharif Bey, please.
As everyone said, Egypt has a very big youth population. We should take advantage of this. And I'll talk about my part, which is sports. We need to double 10 times in the coming 2-3 years in getting our youth engaged in sport, getting them educated better, of course. And if we do get them engaged in sport, as the other big countries, let's say, around the world do, it will even save us a lot of money in education, in healthcare, and a lot of stuff. So Egypt has huge potential. I'm sure we're going in the right direction, but we need the pace to be a little faster.
Thank you very much, Sharif Bey. Please, you have the mic.
Thank you, Ashraf. Again, for me, I'm going to stick to what we do at IECD. Egypt is full of youth and therefore full of potential. I'll focus on the vocational training bit. I think there are so many employment opportunities and so many youth willing to take on these employment opportunities if properly introduced to one another. And I urge the private sector to reach out to the training centers, to the vocational training schools, and look at ways through organizations like us, but also like others, to help inform the curricula, help inform the education that these youth receive, so that upon graduation, instead of going into the informal sector, they are offered proper employment opportunities that allow for career progress and therefore better lives on the long run.
Thank you very much, and please heed her words. Private sector, please, let's put an effort into this, because the government can't do anything, and but the people that can help out, I think we're going to have Dr. Ramaya Morsi, who's the head of the National Council for Women, here today, and I think that should be a connection. I was surprised when Audrey was telling me that you guys have not connected. You are doing all of these, vocational trainings for young ladies and, technicians and electricians and everything. And, we have the National Council of Women that I think would be more than happy to support out with what you're doing, help you get the rest of the trenches in as well, so we can have bigger programs. So please, we're going to have a coffee break. Thank you very much for your attentiveness, and thank you very much for your presence. We'll have the coffee break. Please meet the